All right, we are here. Piece of news just broke. Ryan ONeal just passed away.
What? Oh, I got to tell my friends that. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it just popped up.
We were just watching him recently in a couple of shows that he was on, where he plays the dad, I think in Bones or something. Not Bones, in Monk. He plays somebody's dad in one of these shows.
Oh, speaking of Monk, they've released a Monk movie.
I know. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to review it.
I got to see that.
Yeah, because I started to watch all the Monks last night. I've seen a bunch of them, but I started to watch them. The first Monk ever is the presidential assassination Monk.
Oh, really?
That was the first ran on November 22nd. Yeah, that's number one, the first Monk ever.
Oh, dude, I didn't know that. You know the guy who was his boss? Ted, I think it's Ted Levine or something like that, with the mustache. That was Buffalo Bill in Silence.
Oh, that's right. Oh, now I see it. Yeah, I didn't know. I forgot that. Wow,
it put it in the basket.
Yeah. Wow, what a small world. Yeah, it's a strange show. I mean, one of the directors, it has multiple directors, but one of them was the one I ejected from my apartment who was subletting it in New York, who wouldn't leave. And I had to, I took a red eye, went to my apartment, drilled out the locks, took his bags, replaced the locks, put everything in garbage bags with my brothers, took it to HBO with his name on it. And I said, this belongs to the director of Monk. Make sure he gets it.
Hey, that's effective public service announcement, how to deal with somebody as soon as they leave.
Oh, no. The guy called me. He called me in the middle of the night, said, I'm on to you. It's an illegal sublet. I'm staying as long as I want. And I went, what? Just like out of the blue. And I literally hung up the phone, took a cab to LAX, got on a red eye, went directly to my apartment. He went to work. He was working at HBO. And I opened the door and then drilled out the locks, got a locksmith, replaced them, had my own lease, gathered his stuff, put it in garbage bags with my brothers, took it in a cab and left it at HBO. And that was the last I heard of the guy. I went over to the precinct, I showed him my lease, and they just laughed. The cops thought it was hysterical.
Yeah, well, I mean, possession is 9/10 of the law.
Yeah, especially in New York.
And if you own it, it's like, hello, this is
yeah.
This is my
it was such a weird thing to do. I never had a problem with the guy. It was like a 3-month short-term rental, and I was out here, and then he made this move out of the blue. Like, what is this about?
Drugs?
Maybe, yeah. Who knows? But they have multiple directors on Monk over the years, so he's not the guy. I don't know which guy he was, but whatever.
But no shade against the show. Great show.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Shalhoub is just fantastic.
Fantastic actor.
Speaking of Tony Shalhoub, have you seen Galaxy Quest?
Of course. Are you kidding?
Okay,
I stumbled into Galaxy Quest by accident and saw it by accident at a theater thinking I was seeing something else. And fantastic. Absolutely one of the, I highly recommend Galaxy Quest.
Me too, especially because I hated the idea of it. I thought it was going to be stupid. My wife
demanded I didn't have an idea.
I watch it.
Yeah.
No, she demanded I watch it. Oh, geez. I was going and kicking and screaming, and they managed to walk the finest line of completely stupid and hilarious, and they kept it on the hilarious side.
Brilliant.
Oh,
movie.
Yeah.
Brilliant movie.
Totally love that. So moving to the latest event, how many people have asked us on Twitter about Rob Reiner?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I could be pretty stubborn about certain things, and I didn't want to look into it. I'm busy anyway. But, somebody kept hawking me about it. So I said, let me take a look at this thing. And I started listening to it. And I just want to explain the whole thing to people because it fascinated me. So it turns out it's not a podcast like ours, Eric, which I thought it was. It's him and Soledad O'Brien. It's audio only, reading a prepared script, intercut with previous interviews. Not that they did. Like you may hear Jefferson Morley interviewing somebody else. That's intercut.
He didn't even do the interview? Lazy piece.
No. They comment over the interview. It's kind of interesting. So this intrigued me, and I started to drill down as to who created this, as I usually do. And it turns out that there's multiple people involved who may or may not be sketchy. Maybe you think they're sketchy. One of the first guys I looked into and stumbled into was a cat named David Hoffman. Now, David Hoffman is the writer of the script. So there's a full script. This is David Hoffman. He works for the Washington Post and the New York Times. He's on the Washington Post editorial board. He is the guy who, on his beat, he covers Russia and national security, CIA issues. Okay, that's the guy who writes the scripts. Okay, then there's a guy who's an executive producer named Matt George. Now, Matt George is known as the nonprofit prophet. This is the prophet. He creates left-wing NGOs. So this is what this. No, dude. I'm just getting started on this. When you ask for a deep dive, I'm going to give you the full Monty. So this cat is Matt George. There's a guy named Jason English, but he's kind of a guy who works in podcast awards, whatever that podcast award thing is. I forget what it's called. But he's a legitimate cat. So anyway, Soledad O'Brien had apparently done some other thing about either Dr. Mary's monkey or something with somebody else on her own. So this guy, Rob Reiner, the good news is Rob Reiner knows every single thing about the assassination and the conspiracy. He knows every single thing. He knows everything I know. And I'm not kidding. I mean, no. Rob Reiner knows this genre inside and out. I was shocked. And go, it's okay. I mean, Oliver Stone level almost of what he knows. He knows every book. He knows every beat. He knows everything. However, he draws different conclusions based on what he knows. And I'll get to that in a second. So how did he get to this podcast world? Why would a guy of his stature do a podcast? Well, the story itself is not unsimilar to our own, Eric. He put together a 10-part series for television for Paramount on the assassination. And they just not unlike what I do with Oliver Stone. But this is more recently. This must have been for the 50th anniversary, I presume. Anyway, so Paramount, now here's where it gets really interesting. Paramount had an executive in charge of the project, and they gave him money, Rob Reiner, and I mean mad money, to do this project. Unlike mine, I work completely in reverse. I, of course, wrote everything in advance and everything. But he got money from Paramount to do this JFK assassination conspiracy project, and they gave him money to buy 3 books. And these are 3 major books on the assassination. One is The Last Investigation by Gaten Fonzie. Another one is the Dick Russell book. This is the Gaten Fonzie book. Gaten Fonzie out of Philadelphia, wrote this book. Pretty good straight shooter. Was involved as an investigator on the House Assassinations Committee in 1976-77. A guy who wrote a lot about it out of Philadelphia for various publications. And the book is the book. He attacks Robert Blakely, and it's mostly about the House Assassination Committee inside making the sausage. Okay, so dig that. That book's done. Nobody can ever get that book again. The second book he gets is Dick Russell's book, The Man Who Knew Too Much, which is about Richard Case Nagel. Now, Dick Russell, this is another pretty popular book that has been accepted by most of the JFK research community, including myself. It's about Richard Case Nagel, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's a strange story. There's some of it in there that's not believable, but you say, well, who's Dick Russell? Dick Russell is a guy who is pretty well respected in the JFK research community. He has nothing to do with a guy buying his book, obviously, but he also is an environmentalist now. He gave up this thing a long time ago with the assassination and JFK, and he moved into the environmental movement. He is now working for a guy named RFK Jr. And no. And he's written the new biography of RFK Jr., which is out now, which came out when he announced his run. He is tied to the hip of RFK Jr., which is kind of fascinating. So I started to read the biography, but it was so brown-nosedly ass-kissing. I got the audio book. I couldn't go on anymore. It was just too much. It was just too much. Anyway, so the third book is one of the real gems of Rob Reiner's collection, and that's JFK and the Unspeakable by Jim Douglas.
This is the one that got Max Good into the scene, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So these three books are now untouchable to anyone else who wants to make a project. Now I say, well, he's got them, and you'd have to go through Rob Reiner, who's never going to give them up, whatever. So the guy who was at Paramount gets fired, the executive in charge, not having nothing to do with the project. The guy gets fired and the project goes in a turnaround because that guy was shepherding the project, which happens all the time. So what does he end up with? Nothing. So he decides to create a podcast. And not unlike what we did with the AI, Eric, it's very similar, parallel storylines in terms of development. However, he goes in a different direction. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but he creates the Committee to Investigate Russia, Rob Reiner, when Trump got elected. And on the board of directors of the Committee to Investigate Russia, he still believes in Russia, by the way, Rob Reiner. For this podcast, he attempted to interview Ruth Paine, right? So she picks up the phone and she says to Rob Reiner, she says, if Oswald is not the lone assassin, I am not working with you on this project, and slams the phone down. So that was the end of Ruth Paine. Then he contacts the handlers of Riner Oswald who tell him to get lost. So she doesn't want any part of it either. So he's got these three major books, and he's got this guy from the Washington Post writing the script, of the books. Like, in other words, this guy's taking the books and funneling them through. Okay, so they're just resources, and they're also used to cock block anyone else on the planet Earth, as we saw with Priscilla Johnson McMillan, who did Marina, Me and Marina, and it took 12 years to write the book, and Marina's life story was cock blocked from anyone else doing anything with Marina. There's a similar storyline going on here. Now, he believes certain things, Reiner, about the assassination, which I'll get into in a second, but I just want to give you how he got to where he got with the podcast. So he says he's going to name the shooters at the end. And we'll get to that, who the shooters are, because he names one of them recently, not on the podcast, somewhere else that I found where he names one of the shooters it's told to him that these are one of the shooters. Okay. So he does this thing called the committee to by the way, he also turns down RFK Jr. To be a source for the podcast. Why? Because he's an anti-vaxxer.
Oh,
it's
all politics first.
It's all politics first. So he's out. RFK Jr.'s out, and he says he knows him. He's known him. He's very, 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 very smart, and he turns him down. Obviously, he says, because he also avoids the because he says it would distract the audience. He avoids the Tippit shooting and the Walker shooting. That's out. That's off the top. That's out. He's not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. However, getting back to the Committee to Investigate Russia, on his board are three guys who become his best friends, according to friends or associates. One is John Brennan, the other is Michael Morrell, and the other one is Michael Hayden. All right, no, you're going to love this. So he goes to dinner with John Brennan, because who doesn't? I mean, he loves John Brennan.
Friendly communist, yeah. Friendly
communist meeting a friendly fat communist. So he goes to dinner, and it's with both wives, and he doesn't want to bring this up. He said he doesn't want to bring this up because it will be awkward for the dinner. But at the end of the dinner, like you would with any director, Brennan says, "So what are you working on now?" And he hems and haws. He says, "I'm working on the Kennedy assassination to do a podcast." And, Brennan doesn't get phased. And he says, well, I have a guy who could possibly help you. Right. And here we go. So the cat's name that he gives him, the guy he gives him, because Brennan has guys and he could help Rob Reiner. So he gives him this guy, Rolf Larson. Now, this is Rolf Larson today. Rolf Larson, this is the guy who's now the CIA go-to guy for Meathead. Now, Meathead has his go-to guy. You say to yourself, well, who could this guy be, Rolf Larson? Let me just give you some highlights of his bio. Is a former senior fellow at the Belfar Center, one of these spooky things, in 2019. Currently serves as the inaugural William Perry Distinguished Fellow at the Nuclear Threat Initiative, supporting the initiative's work on global blah, blah, blah. But before working at the Belfar Center, Larson served over 3 years as Director of Intelligence and Counterintelligence at the U.S. Department of Energy. Prior to this, Eric, he served for a mere 23 years as a CIA intelligence officer in various domestic and international posts, to include Chief of Europe Division, Chief in the Directorate of Operations, Chief of Weapons of Mass Destruction, Counterterrorist Center, Deputy Associate Director of Central Intelligence for Military Support, blah, 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 graduate of this, recipient of the CIA Directors Award, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he was the Moscow station chief for many years in Moscow. This is the guy that has him. Now, I did a deep dive and came up with this wonderful document from the recent releases under Trump and under Biden. This was released a number of years ago, 2003. And in 2003, this is a document from 1964, where we'll post this on Locals. It's not that long. It's about 10 pages, 12 pages. But this is from April 22nd, 1964, where the 3 members of the Warren Commission go down to Mexico City to explore Lee Harvey Oswald's alleged trip to Mexico City. So this is an important document. It was released in 2003, and it originally says withhold up in the corner, which they withheld from various investigative agencies. So in this document, the 3 guys, Willens, Coleman, and Slauson, their commission members, go to Mexico City, and they're brought around to all the sites by the CIA that they allege that Oswald was at: the hotel, the restaurants. He was here, he was there. And who takes him on that tour?
The tour.
It's the tour. Who takes him on the tour, Eric, in an unmarked vehicle? Rolf Larson. That's right. 1964. He takes him around, and you get into the document with the U.S. Demanding that they pick up Sylvia Duran and torture her. Now, Sylvia Duran is, of course, the secretary at the consulate at the Mexico embassy. You or me?
That's me this time.
That's rare. I was a little taken aback. Sylvia Duran is the secretary at the Cuban embassy in Mexico City. And she is the one allegedly interfaced with Oswald. But initially, she has to be clammed up. So there's quotes in here about picking her up, about silencing her and interrogating her. And the Mexican intelligence division, which has been criticized by the Mexican communists as being stooges of the CIA, come forth in this document as indeed being stooges of the CIA. They pick up Duran, they torture her, and they won't let her out because they need a Buell Wesley Frazier in this Mexico City theater. They need her to say, yes, that was Oswald. Yes, he came to me. Yes, I slept with him. Yes, I went around and partied with him. Yes, I did that. And they beat the living shit out of her until she said that. However, there's a guy in Washington who gets this information named J. Edgar Hoover. And he says on 29th of November, 1963, Hoover told LBJ on the telephone, quote, and I'm quoting from the actual document here, quote, "This angle in Mexico is giving us a great deal of trouble, Eric, because the story there is this man, Oswald, getting $6,500 from the Cuban embassy and then coming back to this country. We're not able to prove the fact, but the information was that he was there on the 18th of September in Mexico City, Eric, and we're able to prove conclusively that he was in New Orleans that day." There it is, my friend. All these books, all this bullshit about Mexico City. So what does David Atley Phillips do? As J. Edgar Hoover says, quote, to LBJ on the 29th in a phone call, now they've changed the dates. The story came in changing the dates to the 28th of September that he was in Mexico City. Now the Mexican police have again arrested this woman, Duran, who is a member of the Cuban embassy, and we're going to confront her with original informant who saw the money pass. So he says, and we're also going to lie detector test on him. That evening, Fernando Gutierrez Barrios told Winston Scott that Gilberto Alvarado, that's the redheaded Negro, quote unquote, who gave Oswald the money, has recanted and signed a statement admitting that his story of seeing Oswald at the Cuban embassy was completely false. He said his motive was to try to get the United States to take action against Fidel Castro, as I've discussed on this show, and I brought up on Sean Atwood's show the other day, that they were trying to get a second Bay of Pigs going. And these different cutouts were utilized by David Atley Phillips and the Western CIA division that was working out of Mexico City. Larson being one of them. So Larson takes these commissioners on a sightseeing tour of these imaginary things of Oswald, because they still want to drive a stake into the commission's heart that this was a Soviet-Cuban plot that ended up killing Kennedy. That's what they want to do. And they still want to do it to this day. That's where I'm going with this. J. Edgar Hoover sends FBI agents down to Mexico City, as we covered in the last week's episode. And the FBI agents confront these guys at the CIA and say that Hoover and Johnson are saying that Oswald is the lone assassin. Shut the F up. We don't want to hear about any more of this Castro crap. We don't want to hear about the Soviet Union. We have our guy. This is our guy. This is our story. So these guys who were down there, including Thomas Mann, who's interviewed by Dick Russell in his book, Mann being the ambassador, said they were very upset by this, Eric. They were very upset because they had evidence that Oswald was down there. And of course, as we know from previous episodes, they've sent phony photos and phony audio tapes of Oswald calling the embassies as part of their project to frame Oswald down in Mexico City. The point is that to this day, they are still trying to move this needle to the Soviets doing this. And that was reactivated by Trump, and not personally by Trump, but by the Trump election. That's why he's asked to create this thing, Rob Reiner, called the Committee to Investigate Russia. And in there, they want to hang this albatross on Trump's neck and on Putin's neck, and still on the KGB's neck, that they are the ones through Oswald killed JFK. The other elements are, there's people who want to do the mafia thing, but this was their original baby. This is almost as big as the Russia hoax for them back in the day of what they wanted to do. They used a different means to take down Trump, but the means they used for JFK in 1963 and showing up in 64. By the way, the Warren Commission never interviews any of these people from Mexico. They don't interview Sylvia Duran. They don't interview anybody. In fact, the Mexican ambassador Echevarria says to them at one point, the president is running for re-election of Mexico. There's a 6-year term. The election's in 3 months. We don't want to hear anything about this. There's no conspiracy involving Oswald. Leave us alone. And that's the end of the Mexican involvement. And as I've said repeatedly on this show, I believe that these Mexican documents are what's at the bottom of the vault in terms of releases of documents yet to be released by the National Archives and by the holders of these documents. That's a story for another day.
That'd be an interesting list, by the way.
Yeah.
All of the people who were not interviewed by the Warren Commission.
I think there's documents of that. There are documents of that. Anyway, based on this, Rob Reiner now believes that Oswald was involved in the plan but didn't do the shooting. Okay, this is where this is again one of the biggest limited hangouts, moving the goalposts and embracing now 80%, 70% chunks of the conspiracy research community's books, or work into the new plot of trying to move this thing. They're now going to do a limited hangout saying we're embracing the work of these guys, Dick Russell, Jim Douglas, and Gaten Fonzie of the last investigation. We're embracing that. We're giving you that, the American public. But we have a twist at the end. We have another twist. And the twist is that Oswald believed, according to Rob Reiner, he would be flown out of the country to Havana and eventually to the Soviet Union. I've heard this story before. It's been kicking around for many, many years, that he would be flown, and Oswald let the shooter in. There's the actual words of Rob Reiner, into the Texas School Book Depository. Didn't know what was going on. Kind of figured out maybe it was a false flag. I've heard that one before. He cites Operation Northwoods. He knows his stuff. He knows his stuff inside and out, Rob Reiner. And he's a great bullshit artist. And I mean that in a good way and a bad way. I mean, he's smooth because he's worked pitching movies for so long that he's a very convincing orator. He knows how to tell a story. But the story he's in the podcast is him merely reading a script. And that's what both of them are doing. So you're not going to get this. I thought it was like us. They were on camera.
Oh, no. I knew it was.
I didn't know that.
That's a standard podcast format. A limited series podcast is literally scripted quite often, or blah, 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 episodic.
Right. So they are trying to trace this back to E. Howard Hunt to hang Nixon on this too.
Oh, Nixon, pull him in.
Right. He
How about HW?
Yeah. Well, they also H.L. Hunt is also mentioned, and Saint Hunt, the heroin addicted son of E. Howard Hunt. So there's a lot of Hunts in this thing.
And let me guess, LBJ is perfectly
not even mentioned. Not even mentioned. And because don't forget, he did that Hallmark Hall of Fame movie where none of this comes up with Woody Harrelson called LBJ. Surprisingly, none of this comes up in that movie. Yet, and that's why I thought he knew nothing about this. But he has apparently been doing his homework, and he says he's known this stuff his entire life. And I don't doubt it. For him to know that amount of stuff at my level, he has to have been in on this for a long time. Or at least, hip to the different books, because he now controls them. But anyway, so one of the guys he mentions as a shooter, and he says he's going to mention all four paid assassins, I don't know if he's got receipts, is a cat named Jack Cannon. I don't know who Jack Cannon is, so I started to dive down. And I found this is coming from John Brennan of the CIA.
Great.
This is not his investigation. This is coming from Rolf Larson. And by the way, he said the cherry on top was Paul Landis. What really made his year was the finding of the magic bullet by Paul Landis. That was, quote, the cherry on top.
But he, of course, missed the Seth Kinney part.
Not Seth Kinney. It's
Sam Kinney.
Sam Kinney. Not to drag him into bullets. He's got enough problems with bullets. Anyways, so yeah, he missed that. He doesn't know that, and he doesn't know a lot of stuff. I'm not saying he's at my level, but I was quite surprised how much he did know. So Dick, he says that he was told that one of the shooters was Jack Cannon. I'm going like, all right, let me find this guy, Jack Cannon. So apparently, Jack Cannon is a pseudonym for a guy named DeMille, and the guy DeMille is a writer who wrote a book called Sniper. And I don't know if you have a picture of this book. If you could find that, called Sniper. Let me see if I maybe I didn't take it. If you look it up, it was one of these
American Sniper.
No, The Sniper. It's called The Sniper. It's like from the 1970s. The guy DeMille. Just so you know, there's a guy named DeMille, and his pseudonym is Jack Cannon. And these books are based on a guy named Joe, a fictional character named Joe Riker, who's a tough New York City detective who's solving crimes. The book came out in, I think, 1999. Not 1999. One of his books, The General's Daughter, got made into a movie.
Oh, that's Nelson DeMille, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
That's Jack Cannon.
Oh, no way.
Yes. That's what they told him. In other words, they were jerking him around, and they said Jack Cannon, meaning the Joe Riker character in DeMille's first book, is the sniper, Eric. Okay. And that book and a couple of books that he wrote, I think there were 7 books that DeMille first wrote. This has nothing to do with DeMille. He's a totally legit writer. He had a pseudonym named Jack Cannon. And Jack Cannon, the pseudonym, wrote The Sniper. The Sniper is about a New York City cop named Joe Riker.
I got it.
Right. So dig. So either Rolf or Brennan, jerking him around, said, one of the paid assassins, it's in the book, The Sniper, Jack Cannon. He's one of the guys. And anyway, so that's who he's uncovered so far.
Oh my God. That is, yeah. I think he could do better.
Well, he also mentions Hunt. He mentions Bill Harvey, and he mentioned David Atley Phillips as being involved. So he's not off, but it's a limited hangout with moving goalposts to put an end to this thing.
Yeah, with a guy, I guess, who is such a political activist and believer that he'll, swallow whatever it is. I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But anyway, the downside is that he's taken these books off the market for any future use. Now, there's also a side note to this story. The Mammoth Project, the David Mammoth famously becoming a conservative years ago, getting fired by the University of Chicago. He was brought in to write and direct a book turned into a script by the grandnephew of Sam Giancana, some sketchy cat out of Chicago. A Mob Did It book. And I was very depressed about that because I love Mammoth. So Mammoth apparently gave up the project to Barry Levinson, Wag the Dog, Diner, Barry Levinson, Avalon, Barry Levinson. So you can't get anything made in this town unless it's a woman's project or an African-American project. You can't. So Barry Levinson has come up with a JFK project. And he must have rewritten the script or written a brand new script because Mammoth's out, Levinson's in. And the new project is a JFK assassination project through the eyes of a woman. Of course. Yes. No, it's the only way to get anything made, Eric. And
so Dorothy Kilgallen. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to give you the name of the woman right now.
What?
You ready?
Go ahead.
Dorothy Kilgallen.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. It's bad when my sarcasm is accurate.
You can't make this up. Barry Levinson is directing a JFK movie through the eyes of Dorothy Kilgallen.
We're never going to hear the end, dude. We're never going to hear the end.
We're never going to hear the end.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry. Folks, I did not know this shit ahead of time.
No, I know you did. That's why I love doing the show with you, because I tell you nothing before. Anyway, so that's my recap of what I have on the podcast and the latest news out of Hollywood regarding this shit.
Wow, and here's the Sniper, by the way.
I don't know if that's the original. That's not the original. That's a reprint. That's not the original.
Okay, but it's a 1974 book, and this is pretty close to that. So I don't know. Maybe it's like early 80s cover.
Oh, you know why? I didn't send it to you. I sent it by accident to David Fry.
Oh, Viva! He'll know.
He's probably looking at this, going, "What the hell is Grobert sending me?"
I can just imagine he'll be sitting here. He'll have anxiety about it. What are you trying to tell me?
Hold on, let me see if I can I'll just pull one off here from my thing, and I'll message you. That's kind of funny. I do that by accident sometimes because the things are right next to each other.
Yeah, I know.
Here's the copy of the book anyway, for what it's worth.
Because I looked up, that's the only thing I found. I think it's a Wikipedia entry, but it's discontinued, hard to find.
Discontinued, hard to find, and kind
of like The Assassin.
Yeah, there's a bunch of these. What was the one I was telling you about that I couldn't find?
Oh God, we're somebody we may be talking about soon, so we probably don't.
Okay, here it is. I just sent it to you through messages. The New York's toughest cop is going to war. The
okay,
sniper.
This is not the original either, guaranteed.
Okay, well, see the note to reader. Jack Cannon has an asterisk next to it, but that's why I mentioned it, because it's got Jack Cannon there with the asterisk. Jack Cannon is DeMille. So anyway, and there's no reflection on DeMille. I mean, he's a great writer.
Great writer. I like it.
No, he's and a beast. But I just think they were jerking Rob's chain by saying the shooter was Jack Cannon. It sounds like something a cop or somebody just to torture the guy would say. But anyway,
you know what? He's obviously not the deeper researcher, because he could spend a few more hours looking into that character.
Took me 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I wanted to give more credit anyway. But rather than just repeating it verbatim, why wasn't he looking up to talk more about who Jack Cannon is? Or maybe that'll be.
Well, I mean, this is a useful idiot, obviously, and I don't mean that in a idiot way, but I mean, he's being useful to the tools that he has reached out to. I mean, they've been running his social media account since Trump came on board. They had him as the creator of the committee to investigate Russia, that phony committee, and all those guys who signed the letter against Trump. I mean, he still hasn't come down from this Trump thing, because they're running their program now. But they're trying to get the Soviets linked to this thing. Started to resurface a little bit when Trump got elected, and they created the Russia hoax. You started to see little stories coming out. In fact, the original documents that Biden released, the JFK records documents that Biden released, were the initial releases when his first year, were all related to the Soviet Union.
Yeah. By the way, folks, I really recommend it's a short episode from early in our show's existence, but we did do a John Brennan episode.
Oh yeah, go check that out.
Definitely check that out, because just think of the irony of the communist, and we say we're not just labeling him a communist.
He was an avowed communist.
For communist presidents,
yeah,
twice, I believe.
Twice.
So I'm going to paint him with that brush with no problem.
No,
this is the guy who's talking about and worrying about Russia. Keep that in mind, folks.
Right. Well, Rob Reiner also says, we also don't know what was in the package in Frazier's car. I mean, how disingenuous is that? We still don't know. But I just like that Oswald was in on it, but not the shooter. That's been an old trope for many decades. And
he's getting better, because I thought he was shifted to one of the shooters. So now he's getting moved down the hall.
Yeah.
So at least the guy
he's moved down the hall to open the door to let the shooter in, according to Riner.
Pardon me. After you. Pardon me.
Welcome to my world. Welcome.
Oh my goodness. One question. David Atley Phillips. We're going to be doing an episode on him, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because that dude comes up a lot.
Yeah, he's a piece of work. I mean, there's some other guys rolling around there that he mentions. Tosh Plumley, who was a pilot that people mention, and Johnny Rizzo. They each have their own narratives. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They each have their own storylines, and he is on every single storyline. Charles Nicoletti, Desmond Fitzgerald. He drops every single name that researchers know to let you know that who they are. And he doesn't go deep into any of them, but he's good at dropping these names, because he wants the veracity of the conclusion, which is the whole point of the project.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. I can't wait till that comes out now. I guess we'll have to find out when he reveals Jack Cannon. Yeah. And so then we could sound clip that and have the picture next to it.
But I hope he does say Jack Cannon, unless there's another Jack Cannon. I don't know.
I think just in an interview, because that would actually be a great little clip.
Wasn't that the name of Cannon, the actor who played Cannon on TV? Was it Jack Cannon?
Oh, I think there was a Nick Cannon or something. I don't remember.
No. Jack Cannon was the private eye, the big fat guy who was a private investigator. Cannon, the show.
Yeah, it was Cannon, but I don't know if it was.
I don't know if it was Jack. That's why I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm not.
By the way, later Sylvia Durant recanted everything that she testified to under duress and under.
I have a feeling it's William or Frank.
It's Bill Cannon.
William Conrad is the actor who played him.
No, William Conrad was the guy. Oh, no, you're right. I was thinking of Wild West. Who was the Wild West guy?
Oh, geez.
Wasn't that wasn't that Black Sheep? Wasn't that William Conrad? Okay. Robert Conrad. Sorry. That was Robert
Conrad. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. A little confusing here.
All right. And somebody's saying Frank Cannon. So I guess the character is Frank Cannon, played by Conrad. So.
Right. By William Conrad. Right. Thanks.
Lots of I knew the chat would come in. It's like, you just
somebody
keep waiting.
My mind's only so big. I have no room for Cannon.
All right. So should we pivot to modern news? Especially we've got Dick Russell and Bobby Kennedy. I've got this little story I sent you.
Go ahead if it makes any sense.
Oh, it's not
Jesus Christ. For the love of God.
Hey,
to defend Robert Kennedy on this, it seems like guilt by association. I mean, but who knows? What do I know? He's now, this does not, I can't do that with this thing because, well, I can do it. I don't know if it's doable. I mean, it's his second wife who's got a relationship with Jill Zane Maxwell.
And no longer with us, right?
Right. It's hard to but it turns out it wasn't his second wife. It was his first wife. If you read into the article, it's not the second wife. It's the wife before her who he cheated on with this second wife.
Okay.
I read it this morning.
What do you say is Mary Singh or something like that? Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I guess my thing is he seems to be trying to distance himself from it. Like, I was only on the plane twice, and then there's more.
Well, no, he said once, and now it's become twice.
Right. So
right.
I guess that's my issue. Is it's like if he just said, "Hey, we talked to him. He was a really rich dude. Everybody talked to him. What do you want?" Then it would be
I mean, that's kind of like how I feel about it. Because if you were going to go after every person that Epstein knew, it's never going to end. I mean, it's never going to end, bro. I mean, he just knew millions of people. I mean, whatever you think of Epstein, I mean, he would know a Robert Kennedy in 1994. You know what I mean? And that's Kennedy at his, I think, the peak of his sex addiction, running wild.
Which is a bad association to consider. I'm just saying. Yes.
I mean, it is what it is.
So again, I don't know. Oh yeah, Jake and the Fat Man, William Conrad.
Sorry, yeah, Jake and the Fat Man.
But anyway, again, if he didn't keep trying to distance himself and he was just pretty open, saying,
"What is he going to do?" I mean, I
don't know.
Kind of came out of left field. I mean, I don't know if this is coming from the Biden administration or the Trump people are not doing this. This is coming from Biden's people. I mean, somebody got a phone call about this. They just didn't wake up one day and say, "Hey, look who's on the thing here."
True. And speaking of Trump, you wanted me to share a picture of an attorney.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. Does anybody know who this is? This Halligan? Lindsay Halligan. I mean, this looks like Miss America. I mean, not to be sexist, but I mean, I don't know any attorney who looks like this.
Yeah, she's there's other pictures of her out there too. She is definitely.
How can this be his attorney? I mean, I'm not sounding anything other than I just can't believe that this woman is some mental level attorney for Donald Trump. I'm sorry.
She could be. He just seems to have a habit of going for.
Who would you rather have, her or Dershowitz?
Personally, if my ass is in a sling, I probably want, a Dershowitz who I would think is not worrying about dating or 3 hours of makeup to look like that before they go on the news.
I mean, breathtaking. And I would use her if I had different attorneys, different cases.
As a
one of his sex case. What's that?
Yeah, it's like a spokesperson type.
One of the sex cases where he said women did this and she could go up and interrogate the women, or you know what I mean? It would help him to have that type of attorney in his defense. If that was in his stable, I don't know what his legal stable is filled with, various lawyers, I presume. Yeah,
he does seem to have a type, though. I mean, her and Stormy Daniels aren't that far apart, and so looks sorry.
Wow.
But I don't know. It is.
Anyway, he's supposed to take the stand the 11th. I guess that's on Monday. That's going to be must-see TV if that's allowed to be shown.
Well, it's federal, right? So no.
No, that's the New York City one, the civil case.
Oh, okay, Alvin Bragg. Okay. Oh, I can't keep up. There's too many cases.
No, this is the one with the Grim Reaper judge with his sidekick woman who donates to the about his real estate stuff.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. The one that the Attorney General's out talking about every day?
Yeah, she's allowed to talk about it. And then the Trump got a limited ruling on the gag order today. But the big news today is obviously the 9 indictments of fucko of Biden's son. 4 of them being felonies. Now, I didn't turn it on. I saw this clip of what's her name, the blonde chick on NBC talking to another Asian woman, both giggling over this thing, trying to get some distance out of this story by saying this was their spin on NBC. And I wanted to see the spin on this. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's 2 giggling girls, first of all. One is white, the other's Asian. And they're giggling about the fact that this was part of his plea deal that went south because the Republicans put pressure on the judge, who then ended the plea deal. This is nothing new. And now this is now being charged, even though the David Weiss out of Delaware is a Democratic prosecutor who was pressured by Republicans, they said on NBC, to do this. Again, you have to watch this. And they're kind of hemming and hawing and giggling in between. It's an interesting style of propaganda that they have over there. That's David Weiss, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So Weiss was pressured by Republicans to drop the hammer. No mention of the whistleblowers that came out against Hunter Biden from the IRS, who are American heroes, by the way. These whistleblowers were maligned when they first came out. And I don't know what status their careers are in right now. But it's hard to evade 9 indictments and counts of indictments, and also 4 felonies. These are the whistleblowers, right?
Yeah. So one of them, Ziegler, and I guess that other guy is too. I'm not sure.
Bravo. Well, bravo to them. IRS was claimed $17 million was funneled to the Biden family. Anyway, this is the gateway indictments into the Biden world, again, tightening the noose on Biden to get out of the White House by July or June of next year, as I am predicting. They will continue to tighten the noose on his son. And that's why David Weiss, a Democratic prosecutor out of Delaware, indicted, this is just my take on it, indicted Hunter Biden's son yesterday for 9 counts.
I think that the groundwork is being acknowledged by Biden and being worked now, because within the past couple of days, I don't remember when it was, I heard the headlines that Biden has started saying, well, I wouldn't even be running if Donald Trump wasn't.
Right.
So now I feel like that's kind of a shifting for him
that's
to make an announcement later.
Definitely a move of the goalpost. Absolutely. And, like we saw that debate. I mean, tell me what planet a Democratic governor debates another candidate who's actually running in the other party on national TV. Tell me what planet, in political planet, that has ever happened in American history. And I'll take my answer off the air.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is a guy in waiting. I mean, Gavin Newsom is in waiting to replace this guy as the pressure begins to build. And, whether or not he's obviously endorsed Newsom already. He said there's a future Democratic candidate for president. He told the Chinaman that when he was in San Francisco, and he said it to the press. So, I mean, he has his endorsement already. And that's you got to have the kiss the ring. So that's been done. He didn't say Harris is the next president of the United States. He didn't say Michelle Obama is the next president of the United States. He said Gavin Newsom is the next Democratic nominee. A lot to choose from.
Very interesting choice. Very interesting statement too, because it's like, well, wait a minute. Your VP, you deliberately didn't even say. It's almost like what Obama did to him.
Yeah.
With Hillary. It's like, Hillary Clinton is the next. It's like, wait, what?
Not to mention how many times he misappropriated her title and said she was the president of the United States. So, I mean, you could put together a documentary where it just goes back and forth like a ping pong ball.
Oh yeah, totally. But a more important thing, good news.
What?
We have a sponsor.
What?
Yeah, we have a sponsor. One? This sponsor is Jim Andrews out of New York. He is a CPA, 25 years experience.
Oh,
and he's someone. Yeah, I can use it too. I mean, this guy though, he does full boutique agency and things like that. But what's kind of scary is, I did not know this, but many small to medium-sized tax and accounting firms are being acquired by large private equity firms.
Wow.
Okay, here's the problem with it, though, Mark.
What?
They're getting acquired by the private equity firms. Now, the private equity firms don't give a damn about the operation. So how could they save a little money and get juice out of their investment?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
My grandfather, Jack Bloom, was a CPA.
Right. Well, how would your grandfather feel if they were taking his client's information, shipping it overseas to have other people do the accounting for him? Now, hold on. We're worried about TikTok getting our data, right? And other social media platforms. Isn't tax information of clients being worked outside of the U.S. border not a frightening consideration?
Terrifying.
So one thing major about this is it's 100% U.S. tax people in the U.S. by this firm. The guy who owns it is Jim Andrews. He is a CPA, and there's no private equity ownership whatsoever.
Wow.
And if you check in the description, you have not only the web address for this site, but you have his phone number directly. So you can call him, you can email him, and you can always go to the website, check it all out for yourself.
Wow, that sounds great. And wasn't Barnes' dad a CPA also?
Yes, and his dad got screwed over because of licensure. And
right, I mean, he was an accountant, but he wasn't a certified
CPA. That's why.
Accountant. I think my grandfather had that same status. I don't know if he had the CPA thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I love, again, just like Moondo's Coffee. Now we have Jim Andrews. It makes me happy to have independent businesses in the U.S. who are sponsoring the show. I like small businesses and real Americans. So if you guys need tax help, and I'm sure you do, God knows I will need tax help myself. I'm going independent. Check it out. Call him up. There's a link in the description. Again, Jim Andrews or James F. Andrews Jr., CPA.
Right on.
And thank you very much, Jim, for sponsoring.
Now, explain what's going on with this unstructured.locals.com. Like, we talked to the lady yesterday, and we got a lot of new members who are watching or listening to the Oswald scripted audio drama, and the reviews coming in seem to be, I was kind of stunned how positive these reviews were. I really was moved by the comments. Did you read those comments by the people there? I mean, there's
all over. Yeah.
I mean, in locals, I'm talking about.
Yeah. But I mean, people are commenting even outside of locals about it. So,
I didn't know that.
People like it so much that they're on, Twitter, X, and commenting, "Hey, this is really good. I'm following it there." So yeah, it means a lot. They're not only saying, they're commenting on YouTube videos saying, "Hey, I'm loving the Oswald series on locals." So yeah, definitely great comments on locals, but they're even going outside of locals.
Right. So how do they get to this locals scripted audio drama, which you're working on, I presume, right now, on part 2, from what I gather yesterday?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I'm getting with some people. There's some AI developments, but unstructured.locals.com, which, by the way, there's a link in the description on YouTube and on Rumble for what you're watching right now. This is actually live streaming what we are doing on locals. And after a bit, we will be moving over to locals for the after party, because we spend time on locals exclusively, answering other tips, questions, whatever, hanging out a little bit with the locals at the end. And you can join for free. That's the cool part, is anybody can be a member of our locals for free. You don't have to pay a single dime. Just go hang out. You'll be able to watch the thing, this at the end, or anything else. There are some elements like the Oswald script that do require paid support, and that's $70 a year. And we put up other things like that document Mark came up with. They'll probably be put up.
That's a good
supporters
document.
only. And but we do put up a ton of free stuff too. And it also helps us a ton. If you're even a free member, if something happens on YouTube, I'm sure everybody would be shocked to know that this was demonetized in the first 15 minutes, even though we didn't see anything. Mark's appearance in Dallas has been demonetized. I saw that at the same time. At the Allen Library has now been demonetized.
Wow.
So YouTube could have a bad day, give us a strike, and we can't communicate with you if we get a strike on YouTube. But if you are a member on Locals, I can put a post up and you'll get an email saying, hey, we're streaming here, or this is what's going on. So it's a way of knowing what is happening with the show just by following us for free. So, consider that, be a free member. It really does help us out a lot. And I think it gives added content to all of you for free. I've done a ton of research and time to become a Locals member. I actually created that Locals account before I knew Mark. Martin Luther King Day in 2021, my original channel, Eric Hunley, was removed from the internet on Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And that's when I met Mark. Is after that channel got removed, Mark busted my balls when I came back because he didn't like my guest. But we won't go into that.
Who was your guest? Who was it?
I had two FBI counterintelligence operatives and Jack Barsky, the CIA, KGB clone. And you said, not for nothing, Hunley, but after you get removed, you have a deep state person. I said, hey, at least I had the other side.
Right. Well,
and then that started the conversation. So,
well, there's also, just to explain this thing about the city of Allen, there's their version of the video, which is up on their website on YouTube, on their channel. Which is great. It's just a little shorter than the version we shot. With different camera angles, we've got a different take on it. Ours is a longer version. I think theirs might be sanitized somewhat with some F-bombs removed. And then our version is cleaner and a little bit longer. But either one, you could watch our version on our channel or on Locals, or the City of Allen one, which I think a lot of people have watched already, it looks like.
And if you do watch ours, go definitely check out City of Allen, because there are other JFK.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of million things there. Yeah.
Definitely give them love. And that was very nice of them to invite Mark and to let us have a camera person on site, recording it ourselves. Right. So they're very, very generous with their time and facilities. So, all right. So, speaking of support, we've got super chats in here.
Hold on. Can I ring this bell to get some subs?
Please okay.
Do. I'm just going to wait until people get ready to subscribe.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ring the subscription bell at this time. Wow, that was a good one. Begin your subscriptions, friends.
It does help, seriously.
Oh, it does? Okay, all right, good.
More subscribers, and this is the first thing. Have you received the 100,000 YouTube plaque yet? Yes.
Look over there.
I actually have. Hold on. I will do a quick zoom out, and you can see it above my shoulder.
Oh, there's yours. Okay, so there's both of them. Right on.
So we have received it. We appreciate it very much, all of you. It is amazing.
Well, what do we get something at 250 or something? When's the next milestone?
1 million. So
$1 million? We got to get to 1 million. How do we get from 100 to 1 million? I'm not going to live that long, Hunley.
You're going to have to be.
I'm going to wheelchair Willie. I'm going to be coming up this wheelchair Willie. You go, hey, come on, give me 1 million. Let's go.
You know what it is? You're going to have to hook up the bell to one of the founding fathers who's flipping in their grave fast enough to generate electricity as our country is falling apart.
Right.
Get enough.
Hopefully next year this time we'll have a new leader.
Yeah. Lady Friday, USC Shoah Foundation YouTube interviews with October 7th survivors allows to talk with no interruption. All unique. The history is recorded just as they did with the Holocaust survivors.
Yeah, this is Steven Spielberg's project, by the way, down at USC. I've looked at a bunch of the Shoah stuff. It's breathtaking. I was down there doing research on the RFK stuff, and the Shoah thing is what was set up originally after Schindler's List, I believe, by Steven Spielberg through USC.
Okay.
Thanks, Lady Freddie.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the first super chat, Lady Freddie. By the way, I don't know what's going on with StreamYard, folks, but it is not automatically favoriting super chats that are coming in. I'm trying to make sure I catch everyone. If I miss one, I apologize ahead of time. It was not intentional. It blew by.
It was Jack Cannon.
It was. It rolled by us. Al Gonzalez.
I'm sorry I had to see that, Al, but my girlfriend turned me onto it, and I was like horrified. And now I'm passing it on to everybody else to live the pain that I've lived. I went even deeper on the Google, but I suggest to everyone, if you feel less than, and you think some of these megastars, Brie Larson is the actress from a movie Room, which I think got her an Academy Award,
and Captain Marvel,
which got her the Razzie Award, I presume, this year. So it's two ends of the spectrum. But Brie Larson was famously, from our universe, supposed to play Amaryllis Fox, the CIA agent who is now running the RFK Jr. campaign. I know I can't believe I'm saying this myself, you can't make this up, but the CIA agent Amaryllis Fox was supposed to be played by Brie Larson, who has the craziest looking feet in Hollywood. And Al, who's a strong man, was able somehow to look at that for an extended period of time, so you don't have to.
Well, Al is a detective. And he's strong.
He probably wanted to see the evidence. Al, I assume, has binge watched every episode of Monk when it first came out, as a lot of detectives from New York have. One thing I mentioned the other day, and I've talked to people about this before, when they have this, the two things I wanted to mention, we got to divert into different stories here, but the battle at Rockefeller Center the other night, and I mean the battle at Rockefeller Center, and I used to work at Rockefeller Center when I was in the custom shop. They have the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, and people come from all over the world. That was attacked by Palestinians the other night. And tip of the hat to the New York City police for literally going toe-to-toe with these savages who were trying to take down the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center, and would have if it wasn't for that thin blue line that was there preventing them. And what I always appreciated when the New York City police, and I don't think other police forces do this, they certainly don't do it in LA, when you see these battles with the New York City police who are guarding some sort of institution or established holiday thing in New York against the savages, you see captains and lieutenants on the front line. And these are guys in their 60s. And I've seen those guys go toe-to-toe. I've been in a bunch of these as a reporter. And I've seen those older men, and Al knows what I'm talking about, captains and lieutenants who were there, wrestling with these Palestinians the other night. And it's really, I got to tip my hat to them, because I don't think they do that in any other police force. They certainly don't do it here in Los Angeles, where they continue to move the barricades and pull back and give up, which leads to my next story, which is Gavin Newsom canceling the lighting of the Christmas tree here in California because he said protesters would come and it would be a debacle. So he has caved to the Palestinians and has now canceled and says you could watch it online on YouTube. So this is the other tree. I think the mayor of Los Angeles has moved the tree inside City Hall, hiding it in back of a bunch of books. So bravo to the New York City police for going toe-to-toe with these animals in New York to save that Christmas tree. That will be remembered as the Battle of Rockefeller Center, I'm sure, because that was some night there. And then, as I said to Hunley last week, they went up to the Museum of Natural History and tried to get in there, and they closed those bronze doors. And there was another battle royale with tear gas. I mean, these are literally street battles going on now, people, between the New York City police and the Palestinians, the pro-Hamas savages that somehow have gotten into New York City, along with everybody else, that's going to bring that city to its knees.
Wow. I can't help but think that the police lieutenants and captains and all that, they probably have fun with it, because I think
I don't know if it's fun.
But I think they get bored behind the desk sometimes, and they're like standing in. And I'm curious, were they doing this prior to 9/11, or?
Oh yeah, no, they've been doing it.
They've
been doing no. I've seen them my whole life doing it. I've seen them during the Vietnam War. They did it. I mean, they've always done it. And I don't know if other police. I just used to seeing it. In these real skirmishes, the real bad ones, there's always captains and lieutenants on the front line. And I mean the front line. There must be a system that they have. The New York City Police is able to literally have a grid. And I mentioned this last week on the show because I worked in Times Square and I lived on 45th Street for a number of years when I worked in Times Square and afterwards. It later lived on 42nd and Manhattan Plaza down by 10th Avenue. But when my Uncle Louis had the coffee shop, we'd have to close early on New Year's Eve because they start to come in about 2:00. I mean, tens of thousands of people. So we pull the iron gate and split. But they have a system, and I'm curious to see how this is going to work because those Palestinians are coming New Year's Eve. The New York City Police know that right now, and they are meeting around the clock, I'm sure, to how to deal with this. Is going to be the most contested New Year's Eve in New York City in decades. And they use a system of grids and barricades to really square them into these boxes, for every street. You can't get out of the box. So I hope nothing goes wrong, but this is going to be a big challenge for New York City Police this New Year's Eve, because these guys are trying to get a touchdown. They're trying to get a score. They're trying to get on the map. Mm-hmm. And these holiday events in New York are what they're trying to pull off.
And that's what I've been saying to you offline multiple times too, though, is it's actually good for society because the normies, as I like to say, are now having to interact. Their lives are now being interrupted. They're now seeing some of these attitudes that, like the college professors, not professors, but college presidents who sat there in front of Congress and would not. They're like, genocide. Well, it's the context.
Yeah.
What's the and that first one who was doing the Kubrick stare and smirk has come out with an apology, and the apology is almost worse than what she said, because what was it? She's said at the time she was so caught up thinking about considerations of the U.S. Constitution that's
a crock of shit. The reality, of course, the reality of it is the way they should have questioned them, if I was a staffer, would have been to say, would you condone a chanting of genocide against African Americans on your campus? Okay, then she gives the answer, no. Would you condone the chanting of genocide against Latino or people of color or LGBTQ people on your campus? No. Okay, the third one is, would you condone the chanting of death to the Jews and river to the sea and genocide of the Jews on your campus? Now that's going to make her squirm. The questions have to be written in such a way, and it's an art. And believe me, I've never done that job, but the art form of having a great staffer writing questions seems to have gone away. There's a way to box them in. They box themselves in, but they could have been boxed in even better by a staffer writing tighter questions.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And they should have. And sorry, people are saying my audio is loud. I don't know. Do I sound like I'm blowing out to you, Mark?
No,
it's hard to tell.
No, it sounds normal to me. But then again, I'm not a techie, so I don't really know.
Okay, well, I moved the microphone away, folks. So let's see if that makes any difference. I totally agree with that. Yes, and you could replace, quite literally, say swap Jews out with blacks, swap.
Yeah, I've been saying that for decades. I've been saying
the L word that rhymes with wrenching, and then say, well, is that okay? Mm-hmm. But
if you think you're not anti-Semitic, just substitute the word black for Jew every time you hear something, and see how long you last.
The good news is, though, that's gotten to the normies. One thing I do like that the congressperson said is, I'm going to give you a third time for the whole world to hear your answer, and the world is seeing the answer.
That was Stefanik out of, I think she's out of Staten Island, but she was very tough.
Right, and she's the one who was pinning it down, and that clip came from. And now you have like a Harvard alumni, I think it's Bill Ackman or something like that, who's donated millions, and he's going after the Harvard president, saying she's a diversity hire. And
they're demanding the Penn State woman resign by today. I don't know if this has happened yet. They said she's got till 5:00 today to get her shit out of the school. So this the Harvard woman who is
gay, coincidentally,
her name is Gay, and she is gay, coincidentally.
Is she? I don't know.
I changed my name legally to Mark the Jew. So her name is Gay, and she's a black lesbian, which I always appreciate that, because I think that names make you gay. I think that there was a guy, I had a theory about this years ago, semi-comical theory, but the guy was the head of GLAAD, for instance, when he was growing up. I think when you're growing up and if you have a gay name, you're kind of bullied into becoming gay. I think that's part of bullying. And there was a guy who had to have been bullied with this name, and he becomes the president of GLAAD, and his name was Jeff Seaman. So, I mean, your name does matter, people. It really does.
Anthony Weiner.
I mean, Jeff Seaman, I'm the president of GLAAD. Welcome to the party.
Anthony Weiner.
Anthony Weiner had to play with his wiener. And her name is Mrs. Gay, and she's the black gay, head of Harvard.
Yep. And I did think of that SH. I guess, sadly, a boy named Sue doesn't always work out.
Yeah, Johnny Cash had it right.
All right, let me get some more super chats through. There's been a lot of support here. We need to.
I have to go to LaGrange, Texas now. Jesus Christ!
I don't know. We need to send Mark on a fact-finding trip.
Dude, I just got back from Texas. I can't fly anywhere anymore. That's why I got a cold. Anytime I'm on that tube of germs, there's people just hacking stuff up from economy.
Well, there you go. Bob Trinculli, love your work, lads. Greeting from beautiful Chilliwack, BC, Canada. And it probably is.
You guys are prisoners up there. You guys are trapped behind enemy lines.
And I bet you that, speaking of names, chilly, I'm sure it is quite chilly up there right now.
Well, it is Canada.
Yeah. Have you guys done Charles Rogers?
Who is Charles Rogers? I love these people. Have you done Bill Stein? You go like, who's Bill Stein? Well, it's funny you asked. He was my father, and it's I don't know. We haven't done yet. Send us something about Charles Rogers.
All right, question. Do you think Jenna Bush working on NBC's Today Show is a CIA payoff to the Bush family?
No, I mean, it's cronyism and nepotism. I mean, Jenna Bush famously...
was she the drunk one?
Yeah, no. She was the one kiting scripts at Rite Aid and CVS Pharmacy in West Palm Beach, Florida, when my parents lived there. And Jeb Bush had famously called for the death penalty for people who were drug dealers, no rehab, not death penalty, I think life in prison or something. I forget, maybe it was death penalty. And then his daughter got arrested, and all of a sudden he says, well, of course, she's got to go to rehab. It was one of the great gotcha moments in Florida gubernatorial politics or any Bush family politics, but fantastic. So she went to rehab. It's rehab for thee, not for me. The rest of the guys went to... the Florida prison system.
Wow, amazing. Pasha is here. I assume that was the AI generated voice of Ruth Payne we heard earlier, right? Sounded just like her.
Yes. Ruth can speak through me on occasion. There was a guy in Texas who on the other site on the City of Allen Library going after me, saying that Ruth Payne was going to sue me because I alleged she was involved in a conspiracy. I said, I have not received a subpoena yet from her iron lung. I am expecting one any day now. Was that too harsh, Eric?
Sue you from what? I mean,
I don't know. But he also attacked me. He said, I was promoting the book by Alex Jones. And I went, no, really? Alex Jones is an American hero. And this is in the state of Texas. So I'm going, dear God.
By the way, Alex Jones is going to be back on X, it looks like.
Oh, right on. About time.
Elon's so freaking goofy on this.
Dude, he's a goofball. The guy's a goof. I would probably be a goofball like that. I'd be like an Alex Jones guy. I mean, Elon Musk kind of goofball if I was a billionaire.
That's true. I'm actually reading Elon Musk's book in between things, and it's weird, and don't lay too much judgment on me. There's some parallels in his upbringing and my upbringing and our age. Like I read Steve Jobs, and I know a lot about him, but Steve Jobs is generationally off. whereas Elon and I are like a year apart, so we're totally Gen X. And I was like, oh, D&D, yeah, I remember that.
Well, the same music you're into, right? I mean,
to a degree, I haven't gotten as deep into that. His upbringing though really.
Remember when he lost the car and he launched the car in space? He played David Bowie.
Yep, Space Oddity, which is
yeah. I mean, you gotta get, dude. I will never go against this guy simply because of the convertible in space with David Bowie playing. Dude, that's got to go in the Billionaires Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the ultimate. But anyway, apparently Jeremy from the Quartering may have initiated that, but he said something like, oh, you're really annoyed at all the advertisers and nobody else? He's like, well, if you want to really trip out all the wokesters, bring back Alex Jones. It's time.
Oh.
And Elon said, well, I don't believe anybody should be banned forever. Maybe I should do a poll.
Let's just start doing polls.
Yeah, he did a poll for Trump, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Trump didn't take the bait. He didn't take the bait.
No, but and he's back there. No, actually, Trump did post once.
Yeah.
A beautiful post.
Yeah.
His mugshot, his latest post. It's so perfect because his last post is about J6, and then his latest one is the mugshot. So
right. Okay.
Perfect.
Well, that's something. I mean, maybe that doesn't violate his Truth Social contract.
I'm sure that he can work it out. David Parsons saying Riner Oswald has to be in her 80s. I wonder if her elevator goes all the way to the top. I think it does, from what I understand.
Oh yeah, she was pretty sharp. I mean, Max Good talked to her just a couple of years ago, and then some woman reached out to me and told me she worked with her. Well, this was in the 80s, but in a department store, which we'll get into when we do the Marina episode. But yeah, her handlers would not see. Everybody's got a handler, and I don't mean an agent or a manager. I'm talking about a deep state handler. You just don't get to these people. Everybody's going, Mark, Marina lives outside of Dallas. Why don't you just go over her house? It's not how it works. Ask RFK Jr. how he tried to interview the man who killed his father, and how well that went. It's just they have these handlers, people.
Oh God! Speaking of that, when you were doing the Atwood show, I was in the chat to be their support or whatever. Somebody was going on and saying that Jack Valenti was LBJ's handler. I'm like, no, I think it's probably the opposite on that.
Well, yeah, it's funny because Courtney Valenti is one of the big honchos at Warner Brothers. She's one of the gatekeepers, and she has been alleged to be the illegitimate child of her mother, who was a secretary for LBJ and LBJ. And although she's kind of dwarf-like, she's not big, so maybe the genetics of tallness skipped the genes with her. But that being said, I mean, boy, did LBJ dote on that Courtney Valenti in the Oval Office as a baby. I mean, people were starting to talk that he was treating her like it was his own child, which many people believe, and the FBI believed that Jack Valenti was gay. This is one of the staff members of LBJ, who later became the head of the Motion Picture Association, their spokesperson and lobbyist, and his daughter has been the head of Warner Brothers for a long time. I don't know if she's still technically the head of Warner Brothers, but she's been a big wig at Warner Brothers Films here for a long, long time. Yeah,
and you can find out more in Ladies of LBJ. Top.
How many people have seen that episode? I've never looked over there. How many people do you think have seen that?
Over 800,000, I believe.
What? That's insane.
I'd have to look. I mean, it's been drifting up. I think that will probably be our first million. That was our first 100,000 episode, I believe, and it just continues to get traction. And it's weird because it was almost a year old, and it did fine. It had 20,000, nice, respectable episode, and it's blown up, and it's kept blowing up ever since.
By the way, I did that episode with the British guy, Sean Atwood. I never watched.
Yeah,
I've never seen the show, but it was a pretty good episode. And he didn't really say much, but when he did, it was on point. Mm-hmm. It was only an hour, so I mean, it was kind of short. But The funny thing is that I said, we have a lot in common. And he says, what is it? And I said, we were both drug dealers. Unfortunately, you got caught and I didn't. So he got a good chuckle out of that.
Oh, yeah. And it was unfortunate for him because he was in Joe Arpaio's jail and has written about it. Not comfortable.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into it because I didn't have that much time. But I had once pitched a show, a reality show, a Scared Straight kind of thing, where these kids are put into Joe Arpaio's jail down there in Arizona. I didn't make it up. It's true that he has a program where these local high school kids, their parents put them in there for a weekend or an extended period. And it's supposed to be a Scared Straight program. And I thought it would make a great reality show. Of course, nobody in here, again, in Hollywood agreed with me. So it ended up not happening. But I was going to mention that to Sean, but we didn't have much time.
No, but it was a good, very good interview. It was fun.
Okay.
And you did a nice job. It's worth checking out because you had a really cohesive narrative. About the Oswald and a lot of ground was covered in a.
I had to consolidate it into an hour, and I'm kind of hip now that people can't be expected to actually ask me questions. Like when we had that guy, it's just they'd have to know too much. So it's better if I just take the bull by the horns and spread something out for an hour than to have them keep asking me crazy questions. It's too much to ask of them. Like we had that guy from the radio station, WBAP, in Dallas. I mean, that guy knew absolutely nothing. And he kept asking us crazy questions. Like, you mean to tell me that Oswald didn't do it? I mean, it was just like, where do you go with that? You know, it was just all over the map, Eric.
Yeah, well, in fairness to him, his brother is a huge fan of the show, and I think his brother probably knew more of the details.
Right.
And then he's like, "Hey, I'll put him on. This is a good time of year and everything." So I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully next year we could bring the LBJ project to Dallas for the
it'd be fun.
The conference and the City of Allen Library.
All right, Johnny Ricardo Bound. It's not much, but I love the work you two distinguished gentlemen do. Is there?
Hey, Brown, that's it's more than anybody else is given from where you're from. So thank you. Thank you. Who cares?
BTK, the JFK limo had 2 Secret Service agents. At least 2 bullets buzzed by them. Yeah. One through the windshield and one in the fatal shot. Did they ever say anything about that and not protecting JFK?
Yeah, again, that guy was calling me on the phraseology. Remember in the comment section? A fusillade of bullets came raining down upon us by Kellerman, by Roy Kellerman. And they were trying to box him in the Warren Commission, Kellerman, saying how many shots were there, because Kellerman kind of threw a monkey wrench into their operation, saying it was raining bullets down, upon us in the limo. And that was a loose element inside the Warren Commission testimony. And they grilled Kellerman to try to rein it in. Somebody said I didn't have the right exact phrase, but the point of the matter was Kellerman said it was raining bullets down on them. And that's in fact true what he's saying, that some missed. The car itself, when it got to DC, had shrapnel still in the car. So, yeah, I don't think we'll ever know how many shots there were. I know a lot of people need to know how many. Kellerman said they were raining down upon us. So take it from him.
Well, some of the people want to parse your words as if they're the Warren Commission themselves.
I know. It's really bizarre. I mean, look, I'm not under oath. I don't have to, I'm trying to give an impression, storytelling wise of what's happening. I'm not here to testify on behalf of the Warren Commission. I'm trying to give you a picture visually of what happened. And I think, for some reason it seems to work. I mean, if people want, I've seen this repeatedly by lone nutters. Well, Mark got the date wrong on this. How can I believe anything else he's ever said on the face of the earth? I mean, that's some logic. You get the wrong date on something, so they go, of course, you can't believe him on anything else.
Well, what I love, though, is that.
And what planet is that logical?
Let's use your logic. Okay. Mark got a date wrong. So all these other things that are wrong in the official account, that erases them because one date is right.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're saying that errors can only occur one way?
It can. They're just trolls. They're just trolls. Bro.
All right. David Parks is saying Conrad was Matt Dillon on the radio.
In some other job or something?
I guess a radio show problem.
Oh, some radio show. Okay. Oh, Marshall Dillon.
Right, probably.
Yeah.
Marshall Matt Dillon, yeah.
Okay. All right. Like a
sense.
Gunsmoke radio show.
Meathead is a tool of the internet. Eel coming. It's go figure. What?
Okay.
Well,
the point of the matter is that I gave a shout out. Meathead became on my mind because of the death of Norman Lear.
Yep.
And Norman Lear, if you read his biography, started out as a carnival barker, literally a carnival barker at Coney Island, where I grew up, telling people to go in and see the bearded lady. That's when he got his start. And then he stole this sitcom called Until Death Do Us Part from the Brits. And he not just stole it. I mean, he copied, and Edith Bunker copies the actress, her mannerisms, her speech. He copied the living room, the furniture, the structure of the show, every single thing. And he never acknowledged it during his life. And he received one award after another, Norman Lear. They legally had to get the show. So I think legally they owned or were able to have the rights to use it in the U.S. But he never acknowledged it. And it always bothered me as a writer that he never acknowledged it. And also, he was an untouchable because he created and donated so much money to these leftist causes and leftist NGOs that he set up. I forget the name of them. All kinds of different free speech, quote unquote, NGOs. And he was a Ganef. The guy was a Ganef. And he had a partner who may have been was Bud Yorkin, who may have been more creative than he was. A quiet partner.
I forgot about the stealing of Death to Your Partner, because I know it's been done obviously since The Office, very famous, but they gave full
House
credit.
House of Cards, right? But they gave full credit and they used it in the publicity and everything else.
I think Friends was too.
Oh, that I don't know. That I don't know. Yeah. But you know, this was such a groundbreaking show in American pop culture. When I learned 40 years later through the sources I used was Bud Yorkin's son, who's a friend of mine. So I kind of have an inside source to this thing about much more than just this. I mean, we were very close. However, I was astonished. I didn't know that. And he took so much credit for it, Norman Lear. Not even ever really acknowledging Bud Yorkin, who's his partner, was a great guy. Bud Yorkin's wife, by the way, once they got divorced, took her money and decided to make a magazine, and that was called Ms. Magazine.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, a little side note there.
All right. TW Gator, did Papa Bush and Bill Clinton have an agreement over their mutual knowledge regarding the happenings at Mena, Arkansas during Iran-Contra?
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. People mention that a lot. It's not really my ballywick down there.
All right. Meathead is a tool of the intelligence agency. Go figure.
The T-H-E. The or the?
The.
Go figure.
Chuck Whalen. I worked with Tony Zoppi at the Dallas Fairmount in the early 80s, and his involvement with Joe Cambisi and Jack Ruby was brought into question during the HSCA. Any insights?
I don't know Zoppi, but I mean, the Campisi brothers famously told, they were the first people to visit him in jail, by the way, was the Campisi brothers. And they told him that he would get the best attorneys and would get off. And indeed, they were correct, because he was given a new trial. So the Campisis were right.
And then he had a little visit.
Had a visit from Jolly West. That was wrong.
Colonel Lansdale, tell us about Reuben Ephron, USAR Colonel, and Oswald.
What am I, your puppet or something? You can't even look out the window. You can't fly the plane if you're looking over here, Lansdale. What am I, your monkey?
QAD, Mark, does it really make sense for the people now running the White House to replace Biden with Newsom? Might Newsom not want to be his own guy? What leverage should they have with him? Nobody's their own guy.
Okay, first of all, I could say 1968, March 31st, I will not accept, nor will I run for presidency of the United States. Come on, Bobby. When LBJ announced he would not accept the nomination of his own party, that's what Joe Biden, I predict, will be doing for the second term. LBJ did it. They know and worship LBJ. They know Democratic history. The second in command that LBJ picked was Hubert H. Humphrey. And Humphrey almost won that election. It got very close near the end because Humphrey threw off the shackles of LBJ regarding the Vietnam War at the very end. Newsom can throw the Ukraine war under the bus. He could throw every freaking thing that Biden did wrong under the bus, go into that convention, accept a handshake on the stage from Joe Biden, get the nomination, and then start battling Trump for a couple of months, who may or may not be in jail. Is it conceivable? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying is going to happen, as a matter of fact. I mean, this speculation that what else could possibly crazily happen? Like, we haven't seen enough insanity. Every time something new comes up, they go, oh, Mark, that's just a bridge too far. And then another crazy thing happens. I mean, come on, people. This situation has become untenable for Biden to continue on. Obviously, he could get the nomination. He's the sitting president of the United States. I mean, that's not even a question here. Why is Newsom running around as a candidate? I mean, there's a reason he's doing this. Is he going to disappear for 4 years and then run in 2028? Possibly. Or when they pull the plug on Joe Biden, he comes into the convention and raises his hand. He gets X amount of delegates. He's got the super delegates, so he's unbeatable. And Harris will get a certain amount of delegates also. So it looks like she's not been stepped on. That'll appease the black woman's base of the Democratic Party.
And Stacey Abrams or somebody will be his VP.
That I don't know. But the reality of it is she will be, and Joe Biden will remain as president until January 20th, 2025, unless he dies, which is not that far-fetched. And then, you know, if Newsom loses, it'll be Trump. If Newsom wins, it'll be Newsom. It's not crazy. I mean, people just go, it's too far outside the box. I can't think like that.
Yeah, well, that would be wild. I mean, let's say hypothetically, the bad thing happens and he was to pass before the convention, that would throw things into quite a tizzy. If all of a sudden he passes, and let's say he already said, I'm not running, so he's out. He passes. Suddenly, Harris is president, but Newsom is the candidate. I could see a strange little.
Oh, then it's wide open. Then it's RFK time, and anything goes. You know, but I'm saying the way things are right now, who knows what'll happen? Obviously, he could die today, and that'll be complete anarchy and chaos, whatever happens. But if he lives, I think the plan is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 1 week in that window before the DNC convention in Chicago. He's going to step down for health reasons and endorse Gavin Newsom for president. Yeah.
All right, JS. I think Biden is allowed to pardon Hunter, and in return, he has to step down. Okay, well, he's allowed to pardon him either way.
He's allowed to pardon him anyway. I mean, he allowed to step down. I mean, he could do whatever he wants, but he could definitely pardon his own son. He can't pardon him after he's not president, but he can pardon him based on what I just said. On January 19th of 2025. So
exactly. Whether he wins the election, doesn't win the election, if he's president, he can pardon.
Yeah.
There's no Brian D. I got some overtime today, so I'll share some with you guys. Thank you, Brian.
Oh, wow.
Thanks, you too. LBJ quote, I'll have those blacks voting D for the next 200 years. That true?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely true. I think it might have been 400 years, but some people say 200. Some people say 400.
Yeah, it's definitely many years. Sam Adams, 73. Mark.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. What did I just do? This is something else.
Yes, he's got an upcoming
doc
on the CIA.
I didn't see
sorry. Please
I have to see it. I have to see it first.
Please review Reiner's upcoming likely CIA-backed doc, God and Country, Rise of Christian Nationalism.
Yeah, he's becoming the new Alex Gibney, CIA-backed documentarian Alex Gibney, whose father was a CIA Operation Mockingbird journalist on Newsweek staff for many years. Gibney uses his father in Taxi to the Dark Side, I think was the name of the film, in Iraq. His father is in there. But yeah, once you start making, he's not making anything, Rob Reiner. He's putting his stamp and doing his dog and pony show. That's why he did the conventions. That's why he's doing the podcast. The podcast is obviously a booby prize for not getting the television show that he wanted, the 10-hour miniseries that he wanted to put together on the assassination. And unlike our project, apparently Paramount spent a fortune, this is his words, buying those 3 books for him that are now inaccessible to any other movie makers or filmmakers.
All right. Tim Biacchini. Who are your favorite contemporary anti-communist thought leaders and influencers? James Woods, Tucker, Jesse Kelly, VDH, and of course, you guys are some of my favorites. Don't rule out.
I don't care about Kelly. And
Horowitz,
which one's Jesse
Thomas
Kelly?
Sowell.
Which one's Jesse Kelly? I mean,
newscaster or some kind
of.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. I mean, Woods is an actor. I mean, I don't look at him as a thought leader and influencer. I mean, he's a funny, smart guy who's, interesting. But yeah, Tucker and Victor Davis Hanson is brilliant. Obviously, I mean, I love reading his stuff. It's a little slow on the uptake. I think he was pro-vax originally. A lot of these guys are too slow for me. But then again, the stakes are higher for them. I can say whatever I want a lot quicker than they can. And they're writing. Alex Jones, of course, Alex, and Barnes. I mean, Robert Barnes. The only reason I'm here is because of Robert Barnes. Thank God.
All right. Pat M. I think Weiss forced turnaround on Hunter's situation is the first step to dumping Biden. Let's see what Hollywood gives him. Can you say President Harris?
Well, he's said President Harris so many times that it's almost like he wanted to get out and make her President Harris. Yeah, I mean, people have indicated different takes on the same thing. I mean, Weiss didn't wake up and want to do this. There was a Trump-appointed woman judge who blew up the plea deal, right, Eric? Who just said, "What is all this crap in here?" And that plea deal was
only partially though, because she let some of it slide, and it's like,
Well, this opened the door to the indictments by David Weiss because it's essentially the same crime. And hey, you know what? Your plea deal didn't get through. That happens all the time. You know what I mean? You make a plea deal, it's a proffer, and it's not accepted by whatever party involved in this thing. And now he's got to face the charges. I don't know how you get around this. I mean, it doesn't go away, Eric.
Oh, and it's not just there. I covered a case on the legal panel I do on Fridays. There's a guy who did a full plea deal, and the judge said, "Screw you," and sentenced him to 20 years.
Yes, it happens. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
And what was funny is he actually had written in the plea deal that if the judge didn't take it, he could plead not guilty. And the judge said, "Too bad."
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh.
Yeah, it's an offer. It's just an offer. I mean, it's got to go eventually to the judge himself.
Yeah, it can be kind of fucked up. It's like, wait a minute, it's a deal, is it?
I know. A deal's a deal.
J. Will, Oswald passing out fair play for Cuba leaflets.
Sure.
Is it true that Guy Bannister's address was on them? Sounds like the false defector program to build up a parser.
It was a false defector program. It was Bannister's address. It was 544 Camp. It was removed. I've seen both the earlier flyers and the later flyers. Bannister was running him for certain things out of Tulane, for instance. He was infiltrating pro-Castro student groups in Tulane University and actually did acid with them at an acid party. This is in the weeds, but I think it's in the episodes. Yeah, it might be in episode 3 or somewhere in there.
Well, it's in a Bannister episode that we did.
No, but I'm saying it's in my script. It's in the scripted audio drama, where he infiltrates Tulane. You're going to see that in the scripted audio drama on Locals, where he takes acid. The acid was stolen by one of the medical students who worked for Robert Heath, who was a MK Ultra doctor who worked at Tulane, drilling into people's heads, putting transistors into people's heads and stuff, monkeys, gay people, trying to convert them. But he was doing acid experiments, and some of the students stole the acid. But Oswald was already hip to acid because he had done it in Atsugi, Japan. as part of their training programming, to see what they can get out of people on our side, as a defense. And he also went to the assistant district attorney of New Orleans, a guy below Garrison, and asked him if acid was legal before he did it in New Orleans, prior to this party that he went to at Tulane and did acid there. And the guy, this was pre illegalization of LSD, and the DA told him it was legal.
All right. Let's see.
If that helps.
Mark, what do you know about Lucien Rivard? The guy was the prime handler between the French connection and the U.S. market for heroin.
I don't know. I only know America's untold stories. I don't know the French untold stories. This sounds like something the French are involved with. I know that if you get the Gene Hackman movie, The French Connection, it's severely edited. Even the DVD, even the movies that you see, other than the DVD, the original VHS or original DVDs has the full dialogue of the French Connection with Gene Hackman as Popeye Doyle, who was a real cop. Who actually was involved in again, I'm focusing on the American part. The French Connection was a real cop, real guy named Popeye Doyle, who says, if you ever picked your toes in Poughkeepsie, a shout out to some state troopers who live up there. So the people who know the French Connection from that era, who were law enforcement officials, lived through that, and that was a real story and a real movie. And those are the things that are being edited now by the deep state and by the wokesters to try to change dialogue, change narrative, change unacceptable to them periods of American history.
All right. Mo Bishop, the fact that LBJ was crouched below the seat before the shooting even started is incriminating.
Yeah, I mean, if Ralph Yarborough was not seated next to him, the liberal senator, kind of an idealistic, naive cat, Senator Ralph Yarborough from Texas, we wouldn't know this. We wouldn't know that LBJ was doing this, that he had whatever that thing's called, the handheld monitor with the coil going into the radio from the Secret Service. He had that draped over the back seat for blocks and blocks before even getting to the Elm Street turnoff, Houston and Elm. And we know that from Yarborough. And Yarborough famously said, and would not be flipped, that the shots came in front of him, and the smell of smoke, as he referred to as being a World War II combat veteran, the smell of smoke was at ground level. And if you're shooting from a 6th floor building, the smell of smoke does not quickly descend upon a car right below it. It goes up. And that's what Yarborough told the Warren Commission. He told the Secret Service that, and they browbeat Yarborough for months trying to get him to flip.
All right, Sergeant Willie's saying that William Conrad was the voice of Marshall Dillon in the radio predecessor of Gunsmoke. So
this goes in the superfluous category. But thanks for the donation.
Yes, thank you. Big Bill 767, who donates 767. I think that the interest in the number of bullets is because of the massive lies about the 3 bullets. Exact number.
Right. No, I understand. I understand it. But again, you got 3 shells. They're not really shells. 2 are shells, hulls of shells, and 1 is a live round. Just to get into it inside the book depository. 1 is a live round, by the way. There's not 3 hulls there. And the carbine, which is the Carcano, is a clip fed, and people who are gun nuts know this, and I mean nuts in a good way. A clip fed top to bottom, and the bottom is done. The clip ejects onto the floor, and there's no clip on the floor. So either Oswald took the clip with him, or the gun being brought out has a clip in the photo, which it doesn't. And we know who took that photo, a guy named Schiller, who we covered a couple of weeks ago on this show. Where's the clip in that Carcano? Well, it wouldn't go in there. It has to be somewhere. Where is that clip when they find the rifle? The clip's not there. A couple of days later, the Dallas police realize they need the clip, and it miraculously appears out of nowhere. The empty clip to that Carcano.
Right. Heather Weber saying thank you. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
TW Gator. Not like LBJ, Hunter got direct commissioned into the USN as an intel officer and popped for cocaine on his first drill weekend. Took 6 months to process him out. At least he didn't get a silver star.
Right.
Yeah,
Good point.
That's encouraging.
Good point.
iHeart PG opinion on the RNC debate. Erica Mark 2028. Not hardly, but
okay. My opinion is that what's her name is running this thing. Just added on 2 more CNN debates for January with the Republican remaining candidates. That's outrageous.
Yeah, and I didn't watch all the debate. I watched the high points with Vivek shredding people, which was amusing. But again, it's a vice presidential debate at best. And it's fun to see deep staters get hit, or warmongers, essentially. Were either of us fans of Ryan ONeal? I didn't really watch him that much.
He had a brutal battle repeatedly with his son, Redmayne, and they would go at each other violently under the influence of drugs and alcohol. They both would end up in court every other month. I know the kid a little bit.
What about Farrah? He was known for beating the hell out of her.
Right, but I mean, she was already dead, and the kid has addiction issues and prison issues himself because of his father.
Wow, that's just sad.
Yeah.
All right, we have a couple Rumble rants here. No sniper in the nest. Mark, what do you think of Trump's and Newsom's policy would be? What do you think Trump and Newsom's policy would be toward Ukraine?
Well,
we know Taiwan.
We know about Trump's policy to Ukraine. What's the other part of it?
And Newsom. I have a feeling Newsom would get out of it.
Yeah, I think he would get out of everything that's an entanglement by Biden, thereby clearing the slate so he is not weighed down by anything. He can come in like a white knight, Eric, right, on a horse.
Or just change the subject. I don't think he's going to want to acknowledge it at all. I think he'll just be, well, yeah, we're doing that.
No, but I mean, again, whether he acknowledges it or not, it's not him who has done it. It doesn't matter. He can't be, the thing cannot be hung around his neck. All of the crazy policies, the border, whatever it is, it's not him. It's a nice way out for the DNC.
True. And then the second part, would either of them support U.S. military involvement if China invaded like Biden has said he would do? Biden never quite said that. Nobody says that. They always tap dance. The Taiwan issue is terrifying to everyone because they're kind of like, we support Taiwan's ability to exist and don't want it, but they get mealy mouthed around us. So
now they're trying to extricate themselves from Ukraine. And it's interesting to watch themselves pretzelize themselves trying to get out of this Ukraine thing. And now the mayor of Kiev, the former boxer, whose brother is both boxers, are now attacking verbally Zelensky. This is the first. So the thing is starting to unravel for them.
All right. Tommy Jekyll. Apparently have to buy company coins over in locals to compensate creators while I can straight up pay over here. A feeble $15 for your work. You're both a cut above. Well, thank you. I appreciate you going through the struggles.
It's a new company too. It's definitely growing technologically, right, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, we just talked with them, and both them and Rumble. Raleigh Mall. Greetings from Australia, guys.
Australia gays love the show.
Guys.
Oh, God, I'm sorry I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
Bobby Bronco, guys. It's Carcano.
Forget it. Please don't lecture us about pronunciations. This is one of the oldest spectrumy tropes that we ever get is these lectures.
Well, he's saying great show and grazie. So
no. I thank you. I appreciate the $10 too. But when they start getting into the weeds about how we pronounce shit, like we really don't have time for that.
All right. Last super chat. How can Newsom win with this California record?
Well, Eric knows. Yeah, I mean by lying. I mean, they put those stats on the screen with the debate with DeSantis, and he just said they're wrong. I mean, they came from the Associated Press and all of his sources and stuff. And they don't care about that. I mean, they showed the crime 500% versus 250 of Florida versus California. Just denied it.
Oh, well, no, he just lied.
He just said that's, but based on Tuesday's statistics of using guns in a pizza place, California is the best in the nation.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. All right. I was wrong. If the clip don't fit, you got to acquit. Oswald Man was allergic to sunlight and had fair skin.
That's funny. Yeah, the clip is one of the keys. I very rarely get into this, but it's one of my ballywicks about the assassination is the clip. Like, what happens to that clip? It's ejected from the Carcano, or Carcano, whatever that guy wants us to call it. It's ejected, and where did it go? And why are there not 3 hulls for the 3 shots? Why is there a live hull? In other words, the clip is ejected when it's empty. You can't, other than a full, it holds the 6 bullets that are in there. And when the 6 are gone, you can't load that clip with 3. It has to go straight through. And when it empties, it kicks out. So where is it? And why is there only 3 shots?
All right. Fair enough.
This is for the bullet counting people, by the way.
Sergeant
Special
Rowley.
edition. Go ahead.
The Lee Enfield is a much more common rifle at the time, many more LEs in the Carcano, whatever. There are millions of LE from all over the Brit Empire.
That's a Lee Enfield. Yeah. Well, we sometimes call it a British Enfield. That was colloquially, that's how we said it here in the United States for many years. Now they refer to it as a Lee Enfield, but the same 303 British Enfield was the one that Frazier had, and the one that was found on the roof. I didn't see the one on the roof, Mark. Where is that? Well, you didn't see the film footage because they took it off of YouTube. Somebody said they Googled it, couldn't find it, so they're done. There are things that aren't on YouTube, and there are things that aren't in Google. I got to tell you that. I know it's shocking, and sometimes there are things that are not in Wikipedia. I know those are the 3 go-to places, and that's why they're controlled sources, because you sit on your fat ass all day and don't do what me and Hunley do, which is dig into the weeds. Go get them, Hunley.
Yeah, I say go, Mark. Okay, BTK. This is the last super chat. Okay.
So he says.
Oswald says he agrees, and we are off to hang out at Locals, folks.
Well, the show continues, though. It's not the last. There's chats, whatever they call it.
There's tips that are waiting for us.
Right. Okay.
On Locals right now. So I hope
so we got to go over there because there's people naked, crying, or whatever they're doing over there in the comment section.
You never know what they're doing. We got to see if things are out of hand. Is the room torn up?
I go as long as I run out, until I run out of fluids. Then I'm done. So let's get over there.
Let's get on going. Everybody, consider following. There are links in the description to Locals. It's on structure.locals.com. You can follow for free, be a member for free, and you can support us there if you like for $70 a year. But we will see you there.